So here I am coming down the stairs into the railroad room, and what do I see? Not quite a family room, something like an extraordinary wall. This is I guess, a bridging part of the railroad from one main room to the other, Ken?
That is correct. It connects the Edson room to the Jasper room.
Mm-hmm.
And is the first thing you see as you enter the basement.
So, does this represent a real place on the CN line?
Yes,
yeah?
It does. The tunnel at the far corner is the western end of the Broten tunnel, and travels up towards Jasper,
mm-hmm.
and enters the Jasper room over here. And in between, I've got Devona and Mayette, which were real places on the railway.
I'm familiar with Mayette, and I can recall Hot Springs or something like that.
That's correct. Mayette Hot Springs was a tourist attraction area.
Yeah.
Devona has a particular interest to me.
Yes.
Because my mother's family, when my mother was young, moved from a farm to Devona when my grandfather joined the railway as a section gang, worked on the section gang. They were young at the time, so they started at the bottom of the seniority. Devona was the only place that they could sign on at. It was 40 miles east of Jasper. It consisted of a bunkhouse and a speeder and some tools.
Mm-hmm.
There was no stores, there was no school, there was nothing. But Mom and the rest of her siblings, all 9 of them, lived in that bunkhouse for a couple of winters before the school board caught up to them.
You know what's really fascinating when I'm sitting here coming down or looking down the stairs is how finished everything looks. You see the floor going through just as you typically would in a room, and the layout just seems to be suspended in air. And the other thing that strikes me is the furniture quality kind of fascia that I see. That must have been a consideration to make sure the room didn't look junky.
It was. We decided to put a finished fascia on the decking so that it blended in with the railing and the other finishings here in the floor space, and that the wall color flowed through. Mm-hmm. We wanted to have no legs underneath this for kids running around to trip on, or me trip on. So there are no legs underneath this.
Yes, and
instead it's cantilevered from this point with a beam that runs right through to the flat of the wall.
A beam.
A beam.
Like, what size of beam are we talking?
Well, it's probably a 2.5 by 3/4 inch oak beam that's inserted inside of the steel channel.
My gosh.
And it's anchored solidly to the wall in the other room. And
that was something that you'd thought of yourself,
yes.
Eh?
Yes.
So, just a little bit heavier grade of wood being supported to the house goes a long way to finish the layout the way it should be.
That's correct.
Now, the furniture look is also deceiving in some ways. It isn't hardwood finished furniture that you have there along your fascia, is it?
Right. This is plywood.
Yeah.
It's 1/4 inch ply, oak veneer.
Yes.
And it's just oak trim that has been glued onto it.
Okay, so.
And then it's been stained and varnished.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm going to just continue down the stairs and have a little closer look. So I'm just looking at the flow of the railroad through to the painted backdrop. And I see your rock work is quite amazing in terms of a match to the mountains that are there. It's a much different kind of rock than we saw in the other room, but that is also very prototypical, I understand.
Yes, it is. Further east, you were dealing with more gravel and clay, whereas as you start to get into the Rockies, that's solid rock stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And sort of the character of it changes, the nature of the texture of it changes, and the color changes as well.
But you know, this area here really goes to show that even though you're dealing with a space that's at the most maybe somewhere between 2 and 2.5 feet maybe wide, you can make it look like it goes to the horizon just by adding a backdrop.
Adding the backdrop and paying attention to perspective details in the layout of the objects on the deck.
Now you didn't do it, but I came in and painted it for you, as you're aware.
Yeah.
But generating that backdrop must have also helped in your motivation in deciding on how you were going to do the rest of the scenery.
Yes, it does. As I'm working with it, I'm looking at the whole picture, the whole effect. So, I mean, we might choose to put, a tree over there or whatever, and I would choose the smaller tree there because it's further in the distance to get the perspective so that it all flows in. When I'm working with the surfaces in here, I'm working at moving the coloring from the wall down onto the deck and having it flow through. Yeah. So the light reflections off the painting, both on the wall and on the deck, work.
You get that impression, and I remember I've been out west quite a bit. That valley that's painted on the wall is actually from a photo of the area. Yeah. Because I remember painting it. But it does generate that complete look that you're talking about for the trains as they move along by the Athabasca River there.
Yes.
That is pretty neat. Now I noticed that there's some details on here that you've started to accumulate, and one of them that caught my eye because I haven't seen HO scale or close to HO scale buffalo. That's pretty wild. What happened there? How did you...
Well,
is that something you ordered in the catalog?
No, we were out rambling in the west, and we got to Mount Rushmore, Custer National Park area, and we were in the tourist junk shop, and I happened to spot these little packages of buffalo, and so I bought some.
That's unbelievable. So there's not even a brand name on that to help people with. It was just like, go to that park and hopefully they're still selling them to the kids.
Maybe. I have no idea. I don't remember now whether they were even just plain plastic bags with a white tag on it.
They were a little plastic bag with
little plastic bags.
2 little plastic bags.
Yeah. There was 3 in a bag, and it was just a little plastic bag, and it just had a little piece of cardboard on it. So I don't remember what was on it, the manufacturer's name or not. But when I saw them, I knew I wasn't going to get them anywhere else.
So that's the modeler's tip.
That's right.
Go into a lot of stores, look around. If you see something
good, now's the time to buy it because you won't find it again.
Yeah, that's neat.
I also ordered some animals from a vendor in Germany.
Yes.
Like the moose.
Yeah. Oh, that's wonderful. Yeah.
The bear.
And there's some bears?
There's some bears.
Oh, yes. The grizzly bears. And a cub right behind Mom.
That's right.
Huh.
So you don't get between them.
That's right. And look at this little fireplace scene here. That's kind of interesting. I've seen these kits before. They're fairly easy to install, aren't they?
They are, indeed, yes. So what I've done here is I picked up a kit of people that represent gentlemen who were riding the rails in the 1940s and 50s.
Yes.
And then I built this
little hobo camp.
It's a hobo camp, yes.
Yeah.
So I put that on the layout. That particular campfire is powered from the section that isolates my programming track.
Oh, so your programming track's right here.
When I turn on the programming track, that light goes out. So I don't have a bright glowing light on my fascia.
So instead of having facial lights, you've built it into your scenery. So when you're doing your programming of your locomotive, you know you're in programming mode because the fire goes out.
That's right. That's right.
Interesting.
I figured that would be useful as I got older.
Yeah. Wouldn't have to think too much there. It was right there. Oh, somebody put the fire out.
Yeah. No wonder my engine doesn't run. Yeah.
Well, that's very interesting. And I see that there's a lot more. That looks like is that a kit, that loading ramp?
That loading ramp, actually I bought that one at the flea market, I think.
Okay. That looks like the project that we had at St. Lawrence Division.